So the two types of license that I'm quoting you for are BMCL, stands for Bat Mitigation Class License. You can think of this as the low impact bat license. And what I mean by that is, this is a relative scale, of course, because things that are injurious to any British bat species and or are likely to disturb the roost in some way are criminally prosecutable. So it doesn't mean that it's not important, but this is what's called a low conservation status roost. That's quite good news because it falls within the BMCL criteria, and this means that you're making the license is more like a notification to Natural England. It doesn't exactly function this way, but it's an easy way to explain it. So you prepare the license and send it to them and say, this is what we're doing, as opposed to the other route, which I'll explain in a moment, which is more like an application, kind of like your planning, where you have to submit something, wait a long time for someone to determine it, and then potentially even come back to you with further questions, if they grant it at all. So it's much less onerous in terms of protocol, and it's much quicker, almost instantaneous. We could probably begin your work within a week and a half. You could have your license probably by the end of that, whatever week we start preparing it, and then you can crack straight on with your site works. There's a small, in both cases, there's a small fee payable to Natural England. The other type of license is called EPSML. That stands for European Protected Species Mitigation License. I deeply apologise on behalf of my industry that the two licenses are called something almost identical. This is for higher conservation status roosts. It used to be the only track actually until they introduced BMCL. Generally speaking, this would be where you have less common species or higher conservation status roosts. You know, you can obviously understand that a rarer species of bat, or at least rare in a particular range geographically, and a larger number of those bats, and them using for something like maternity, is a lot more quote unquote important than a single crevice dwelling species chilling out at your place. The EPSML is an application, so you need to complete an application, which is quite onerous protocol wise. There is still a small fee to pay to Natural England, and then you have to wait for their 30 working day, 6-week determination period for them to tell you either you've got a license and off you go, or alternatively they very rarely refuse them. We've never actually had a refusal here in over 400 licenses. Incidentally, in 2017 we made a Freedom of Information request to Natural England, and between Natural England and Natural Resource Wales, Arbtech, this company, represented something like 10% of the overall market for license applications. We've got vastly more experience of doing that here than any other consultancy, and I can tell you that with complete confidence. Nevertheless, in our experience, what they tend to do, particularly when they're busy in the middle of summer with EPSML, is wait until that 30 working day period expires, then they wait until they're chased by someone like us, and then they come back to you with something called an FIR, further information request. And that can be something as simple as, please can you change a few details on this plan, to an entire, massive list of questions. Kind of like when you apply for planning, really. Sometimes you you get your planning consent well within the 8 or 10 week determination period, and other times they let that lapse and then they still want more things from you. So this is very much slower and much less, for want of a better expression, guaranteed than BMCL is. So my strong recommendation is that you go down the BMCL route. It's much quicker, it's cheaper, and much less onerous. And obviously, of course, the outcome is guaranteed because we're making a notification of what we're doing, as opposed to an application that then has to be decided.